Welcome back. It's time to talk housing issues. And this week, the federal government launched the first mortgage scheme for 10,000 beneficiaries aimed at addressing the constraints posed by poor access to finance in the development of affordable housing in the country. The federal government's 10,000 mortgage scheme was inspired by President Goodluck Jonathan's pledge to help tackle the country's 17 million housing deficits. And we'll have in the studio two gentlemen who will be telling us more about this. And on my immediate left is the alternate chairman, Ministerial Committee on the Presidential 10,000 Affordable Homes Project, architect Ezekiel Nya-Etok. Did I get that right?
Very right.
Thank you.
So.
Thank you. And then we also have Mr. Sola Enitan, who is the chairman, Public-Private Partnership, Real Estate Developers Association of Nigeria. Thank you so much for joining us. Let me start with you.
Yes, ma'am.
10,000 out of 17 million.
Yes. Put it that way and it sounds like nothing, but that's a wrong side to put it. The right side is that Nigeria, since independence, has had less than 25,000 mortgages since independence. And within a couple of weeks or months or less than a year, somebody wants to give you 10,000, when since 1960 we've had less than 25,000. Now, what would be your conclusion there? Would you still look at it the other way?
Okay, maybe we should reframe it now and now
Yes.
say that the 10,000, what does
Yes.
that include? What is it going to be? Is it as many millions as possible over a longer period of time? What's in
Okay,
the terms?
I'll tell you what it is.
Yes.
Nigeria has had major problems with housing delivery because the dynamics, there's what you call the value chain. The man that produces the houses must have the people that will buy it. The people that will have to buy the houses will need to either take money off their pocket or be given the houses for them to pay over a long period of time. I once occupied a two-bedroom apartment in Abuja, and I was paying 2.5 million per annum. After a few years, I would have paid, maybe after 5 years, we would have paid close to 10 million, and then the owner wants the house, and it's gone. You look for another house. And that has been the story of Nigerians. They've paid millions and millions and millions of naira to home owners and without owning a home. And that's because we've not had any mortgage facility or institution, not institution, mortgage culture or system. Mortgage culture or system comes from long-term funds where they're able to say, okay, we give you this house valued at 10 million, but you can pay it over a period of 20 years. You now take your time and pay from your salary. That's how housing runs everywhere else, and it's been that way. But in Nigeria, it's been cash and carry. You hardly find anybody that will give you a 5-year mortgage facility. Where you find one, you pay on commercial rate. You're asked to pay, by the time you take maybe for 21% and you add 2% this, 8% that, at the end you're taking for close to 28 to 30%. How can you repay such money? What sort of business are you doing? So you end up leaving to pay banks, and at somewhere along the way, you discover you cannot continue, and they take the property from you. So the president looked at this and said it cannot continue this way. It just cannot be. He now charged the Minister of Finance and said, look into this. Whatever ought to be done to change this trend. He started with a presidential retreat where I was privileged to be one of the 5 people that made presentations to the president. And he said, look, I want something substantial. Even if it is one thing or two things, I don't want this to be another talk shop. Go back, come back with something, 1, 2, 3 things I can do. And the Minister of Finance took it, ran with it, and came up with this NMRC, Nigeria Mortgage Refinance Company. It is a private company that has a kind of muscle or backbone from the government to work. And as we speak, that company has been able to get a 300 million facility from the World Bank at 0 interest rate.
$300 million.
That's important because Naira won't be the same thing.
Yeah.
At 0 interest rate, repayable over a period of 40 years. Based on this, the federal government can now tell Nigerians, I've been able to provide an institution that on the first instance will be able to give mortgage facility to a minimum of 10,000 Nigerians in the first year. And the target is that before the fourth year, we would have hit the 200,000 margin in 4 years, as opposed to 25,000 in 50 years. So that's what this is really all about.
Okay, let's ask Mr. Enitan here. In terms of what was done by Ms. Amapepo when she was there seemed to be a groundswell of activity and action that point to the fact that Nigeria was actually gearing towards 1 million homes, maybe not in a year, but over a period of time it just might happen. Does it mean now that that's being shelved and now we're just looking at, let's just give people, as many people as possible, about 10,000 of them, mortgage so that they can buy their properties?
I think it's more realistic when you think of the dynamics mismatch that we have within the economics of the system. You want to do 1 million, or you want to do 100,000 in each geopolitical zone. If you say that, you then have to, look at how do you get the providers of houses together to be able to give you 100,000. If you are doing 100,000 in Lagos, 100,000 in Abuja, 100,000 in Enugu, 100,000 in several of the other regions, and you're looking at suppliers of products, you're looking at all these value chains coming into play, you find that there will be a lot of stress on the system that is not ready to jumpstart or kickstart such a large housing spread. Because houses is not like cloths that you can make overnight. It has a gestation period that will take you between 90 days to 180 days, even if you have the money cash on ground. But then when you have to do pre-qualification for home buyers, you have to do pre-qualifications for developers, for development loans, which may take you like the first 90 days. So by the time you are saying you want to deliver 600,000 units, you've already served your time and gone. So I think 10,000 is realistic. I think even for the Nigerian Mortgage Refinancing Corporation, they have to first have some history of mortgage repayments or some history of savings from people that are going to take mortgages. So the 10,000 housing unit, the way I look at it, is more realistic.
Okay, so how does this work? Let me ask Mr.
Maybe I should just agree with him completely and probably add one or two things.
Especially in the area of